There's a lot to like about Ghost of Tsushima Legends, but the weekly Nightmare Survival Challenge is not one of them. At least it's not if you're trying to get into a game using the in-game matchmaking system. For those who don't know, Ghost of Tsushima Legends was a free update that introduced a new story-based 2-player co-op mode, as well as a new 4-player survival mode where you have to survive against waves of enemies while preventing them from taking over 4 capture points. There are different difficulty tiers for each of these modes, the easiest starting at bronze, while gold is the hardest. But on top of that, Legends features a weekly nightmare challenge in each of those modes, which ups the difficulty quite considerably. I found the Nightmare Story Mode challenge to be a good challenge and a lot of fun to do. That's with matchmaking, of course. But I can't say the same about the weekly Nightmare Survival Challenge. If you're trying to matchmake into this, you can expect to have one of the most frustrating online co-op experiences of your life, and that's often before you even begin to play. That's because the moment you matchmake into a game, the chances are high that someone on your team will look around at all the players that have matchmade into the game and then immediately quit. If that doesn't happen, if your team of 4 randoms decide to immediately run into the fray, you can almost guarantee that 1 or 2 of them are going to get downed almost immediately and then quit, as if it were their teammates that weren't good enough to keep them alive or something, I don't know. Quitters wouldn't be an issue if Nightmare Survival wasn't so difficult, but if you don't have all 4 players for the entirety of the game, you may as well quit early because the chances are you aren't going to complete it anyway. At least that seems to be how people are thinking. And so they do, they quit. Here's the thing though, the problem isn't players quitting. Players quitting is a symptom. It's a symptom of poor game design decisions when it comes to this mode. Now, I'm not saying survival mode itself is bad game design, though I would say it is completely uninspired at least. We've seen enough of defend point A, then run to defend point B, rinse and repeat in games. It's been done to death as far as I'm concerned. But boring as stand in the circle to defend it game design is, it's not inherently bad design. What I actually mean is the implementation of survival has not been thought through with matchmaking in mind. It's clearly designed for a carefully coordinated and communicating team of friends who know how to structure their team before they start the game and who know exactly what roles each will be playing and who needs to do what as they play. The survival experience for that team is a whole other story. But I'm not talking about that story, I'm talking about the matchmaking experience, though some of what I'm about to say can apply to pre-made teams, I guess, just as easily as with match-made teams. First up, survival games take way too long. At the most difficult level, you have to survive 25 waves. On easier levels, waves can be cleared fast, but waves take a long time to clear on Nightmare level. A 25 wave game can go for nearly an hour, which is just insane when you think that if something goes wrong and someone dies 50 minutes into that, it's a mission fail for everyone. And something can go wrong because the difficulty spike is pretty unreasonable from a match-made perspective. It makes Destiny Nightfalls look like a walk in the park. The mode starts out hard and each subsequent wave gets harder than the last. This is to a degree where if 1 or 2 players get downed right from the very start, you can be pretty sure there's no chance you'll complete it all the way to wave 25. When players see some team members go down at the start, that's when a lot of disconnects happen. In fact, it's so difficult that the vast majority of randoms matchmaking in will get downed right from the start, or at least close to. If the team is good enough and can go the distance, it might even be normal to see players having been downed as many times or even more times than there are waves. It doesn't get the name Nightmare for nothing. But it's for this reason many players believe they need 2 Ronins on every team. Ronins are the healers of the game. Their special ability allows them to resurrect downed ghosts from afar. By having 2 Ronins, you have the chance for them to chain their resurrect multiple times on downed ghosts when needed. So when a lot of players matchmake in, the first thing they do is look to see if there are 2 Ronins on the team. If not, they might disconnect immediately because they know the chances of making it all the way to the end of wave 25 without a team wipe just pretty much plummeted. And when I say might disconnect, I mean someone usually does. Again, this is because they know the challenge is unreasonably difficult, but the chances of completing it are low without the exact right team makeup that, you can't really expect in a random matchmaking system. This problem really gets exacerbated by the modifications to the mission that if one ghost dies, everyone fails. There's a lot of reasons why a ghost can get downed and the rest of the team might struggle to get them back up again before they die, and it isn't just the basic difficulty level spike. Sometimes it happens with player error, or the player downed is on the other side of the map and the team just can't get to them. These things can happen over the course of an hour, or sometimes it happens because of just bad game mechanics. The Hwacha arrow spam is one such mechanic. This arrow spam makes it very difficult to try and resurrect another player because by the time your res animation has played out, it's possible that arrow spam can have targeted and killed you in the process. Yes, you have to try to time it well, I realise that, but when there's a timer counting down, timing things well isn't always an option you have if you're going to prevent a team wipe. In my experience, this arrow spam is a leading cause of player deaths, and that's just not fun. People want to be sword-wielding samurai, not fire sky dodging rollerballs. And even if you are an expert rollerball, if you're not careful and take an action that puts you into an animation that you can't cancel, those arrows can appear out of nowhere and end you instantly no matter how careful you are. I think the unreasonable difficulty of Nightmare Survival can easily be fixed though. First of all that needs to happen is the duration of the activity needs to be shortened. Just drop it from 25 waves to 10. 10 very difficult waves as opposed to 25 will immediately reduce the perception of how hard the activity is. 10 waves is more respectful of player time and less intimidating to those worried that they'll fail. With 10 waves, if someone disconnects from the start, it's still more likely that the other 3 will stick around to try to 3-man it. I've seen people calling for 30-minute bans on people who disconnect, but that's just a band-aid solution to the problem. The problem is people feel it's too hard and too long and that they need the best team to make it through that. But if it was the right length, then half the battle is won. 10 waves, I think, is the right length. And making that pesky Hwacha arrow spam less frequent will also go a long way to helping. But I still don't think that's ideal in itself. A better solution would be to give players the ability to destroy the source of those arrows once and for all, just as you do in a normal story mission. If all that occurred, I doubt further changes would need to be made to the difficulty level of the challenge, but if they were needed even after all of that, all that would be required would be maybe some of those out-of-the-blue one-shot attacks to be dialed back just a tad, but not much more needs to change than that in my opinion. To be clear, I'm not saying make the mode easy. It's meant to be a nightmare of a challenge after all. And dumbing it down for those not using matchmaking would just ruin it for them too. Although, to be fair, any player not matchmaking that already has a team, you'll be able to get your challenge fixed from the raid pretty soon. But that said, the balance does need to be found for players who are matchmaking to give them the idea that they can beat it without needing the perfect team composition, and that they can risk taking the chance even if they don't have the perfect team composition without first needing to take an extended toilet break to prepare their bladder for the long haul. Otherwise, people will stop wanting to do it very quickly, and those that do want to do this mode will start to find it really hard to find match-made games. Anyway, that's my take on Nightmare Survival. I think it needs some tweaking from Sucker Punch's end to make it good. Let me know what you think. Bye for now.